Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy T for 365 Horror, and this is a horror movie discovery channel. I am just here to put as many horror movies on your watch list as possible. And in today's video, we are going to be looking at 18 brand new releases for you guys to watch and stream today. So let's get into it right now. Now we are going to get into the video, but before we do, I've got to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you like this content. Also, this video is best watched with a movie tracker. I like to use Letterboxd. It's just the easiest way to keep track of the movies that you've seen and want to see. Also, I want to talk about the availability of these films, as I have personally went and verified that each one of these films is released. If you're not seeing them, it's probably one of two reasons. The first one being you might be region locked. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for some of these movies to come out in Canada. Or the second reason, if you're using alternative media sources or some of the free sites, some of these movies just came out yesterday, so they may take a few days to show up. And lastly, this is just a preview. Huh? What's that? That they don't really care that it's a preview? They're still going to leave in the comments that he doesn't even watch the movies? Why don't they care that it's just a preview? These are not reviews and recommendations. If you did want some reviews and recommendations, then I suggest you watch my Every Movie I Watched in a Month series, my You Should Watch series, or any of my movie list series. This is just a little something for the diehards like me that are always looking for something new to watch. And with that, let's get right to the movies. Well, today we're just going to get right to the movies, and I'm going to save you guys from the topics because we have a monumentally big show. And with so many movies to cover, I suggest we just get right into it. But remember, like always, these videos always will have chapters in the bottom, so if you don't like a movie or you want to skip through it, it's all there for you. The first movie we're going to cover this week is a straight horror called The Curse of the Necklace, and this movie is available on VOD Digital. A family navigates turbulent 1960 dynamics. Mom separates from her alcoholic husband. Daughters grapple with changes. Dad's antique gift hides the dark force that imperils them all. It is directed by Juan Pablo Arias Munoz. Okay, after watching the trailer for The Necklace, this looks like a good cursed item / possession horror. Now, I feel like I haven't really seen a very good possession horror in a minute, so I am actually looking forward to this one. It looks like it's acted well and it has good production. Now, even though this movie isn't exactly a unique premise, I did like a lot of what I was seeing here. They were attempting a lot of creeps and scares, and I really liked a lot of the disturbing acts that I saw, so I have a feeling that they're not going to be afraid to get raw here. This possession horror is hitting just in time for spooky season, and this movie will get a regular spot on my watch list.
That necklace had a dark history attached to it. A connection to the spirit realm.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a horror thriller called Strange Darling, and this movie is available on VOD Digital.
I know it isn't true.
Nothing is what it seems when a twisted one-night stand spirals into a serial killer's vicious murder spree. It is directed by J.T. Mullner. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Strange Darling, this looks like an exhilarating cat and mouse serial killer horror. Right off the bat, the movie looks like it has some good tension and some good heart-pounding thriller moments. Watching the trailer, it talks a lot about a bunch of twists and turns, so I'm not really sure if this is going to be a revenge horror or something else. Now, the cast, the acting, and the production all look really good, so I'm just hoping that the story actually unfolds something unique to me. I'll be giving Strange Darling a regular spot on my watch list.
So I'm gonna have to ask you a question. Are you a serial killer?
What did you just say?
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a straight horror called Down Below, and this movie is available on VOD Digital. On the 20th anniversary of the gruesome Christmas Eve murders at St. Agnes Church, a demonic preacher returns to haunt that same town's residents. It is directed by Spider Dabrowski. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Down Below, this one unfortunately looks just a little bit subpar. Now it has Eric Roberts in it, so I'm sure that that's going to be good performance for sure, but the rest of the cast just looked passable. Now to be completely honest, I really have seen worse acting, so at least this one looked competent. Also, I did appreciate the fact that it looks at least like they are trying to give us some scares. Down Below as a film didn't exactly look the worst, but just nothing really jumped out at me. I think I'll have to give this film a little bit lower of a spot on my watch list.
Anything bad ever happened at this church? There was never a massacre.
If there had been a massacre here, I would know about it. The whole town would know about it.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a drama horror thriller called Speak No Evil, and this movie's available on VOD Digital. A family is invited to spend the whole weekend in a lonely home on the countryside. But as the weekend progresses, they realize that a dark side lies within the family who invited them. It is directed by James Watkins. Okay, so before we get into the trailer of Speak No Evil, I just have to give a full disclosure that I have seen the original Danish film. Now, one of the things I was happy about when I looked at the trailer is it does look like they somewhat tried to change up the story and some of the situations, and maybe even the ending, so at least I get to expect to watch something different here. Another thing I liked is, in the original film, I really liked the awkwardness of the families, and when I watched the trailer, it gave me full confidence that that still stays intact. And I really do think that James McAvoy is a great cast for the role because he just does so well in becoming unglued. Now, the next criticism I have might be without basis, but one thing about this movie that I didn't like about the trailer was I haven't really watched the original Danish trailer, but I feel like there's an Abigail thing going on here, because when I did watch the original Danish movie, I didn't know what had really happened to the little boy, and that really became an important revelation point in the film, and they just kind of gave it away in the trailer. I really enjoyed the original film, and I'm actually excited to see if this remake holds up, so I'm going to give this one a higher spot on my watch list. Next movie we're going to take at is a horror thriller called The Deserving, and this one's available on VOD Digital.
You want, little man?
A depressed mute serial killer tormented in his house by the ghost of his victims. On the morning he's set to kill himself, he's visited by a sudden walk-in client in need of a photo shoot. It is directed by Coca Singh Arora. Okay, so after watching the trailer for The Deserving, this looks like it could be a good supernatural ghost horror. Now, I really like the premise on this one, and I find that the character that they've set up has the chance to have a lot of depth and layers to him. And the idea of the killer being haunted in such a consistent way isn't exactly something we see all the time. Now, we often see victims' ghosts kind of haunt bystanders or new people that come into the story and look for their help to solve their murders or uncover their tragedies. But not so often do we have a movie that's centered on the killer and then the ghosts of his victims just torture him endlessly. I also like that the movie looked like they're going to attempt to have a ton of creeps and scares, as you are always seeing the ghosts and these like decrepit visions of his victims. The only iffy part is I'm interested to see if the actors' performances actually hold up. Now, even though the ghosts in the films look a little more CGI, I still think this one has the potential for some really good jump scares, and we're going to really investigate just a flawed and tormented character. The Deserving looks like it has the chance to be a decent sleeper and will get a regular spot on my watch list.
I hope you don't mind. I don't have an appointment, but I came a long way, and I need some new headshots for my portfolio.
Your tomb is beautiful. I said, your home is beautiful. Wow.
Are you the photographer? What the are you doing?
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a horror thriller called House of Spoils, and this movie is available on Amazon Prime. This film tells the story of a chef who opens her first restaurant, where she battles kitchen chaos, a dubious investor, and self-doubt. But the pressure heats up thanks to the spirit of the estate's previous owner, who threatens to sabotage her. It is directed by Bridget Savage Cole, and Danielle Crudy. So after watching the trailer for House of Spoils, this looks like a pretty good madness/paranoia type film. I like the overall premise about kind of the chef and she stumbles upon what is like a witch's garden and then she eats from it and it makes her think and act strange. I also think this movie has the propensity to have a pretty good gore element. Even though I'm not expecting it to be blood and guts, it's still gonna be a ton of gross spoiling food and a bunch of bugs. For someone like me that's kind of squeamish about bugs, there should be a lot of good trigger moments. It also looks like the movie has good production and is acted well. Lastly, I really dig these chef movies because obviously I really like food, and I just find that when you come to these kind of higher, elevated chef preparations, the dishes are always like super visually stunning, and I love the fact that in the preparation, you always get this like really mesmerizing ASMR of just like as like things are being chopped and onions, and I always just find that really kind of relaxing. To me, House of Spoils actually looks like a decent to good horror movie, and it's going to be getting a regular spot on my watch list.
What's prosciutto?
Prosciutto?
Oh.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a drama horror thriller called Hold Your Breath, and this one's available on Disney+.
We're very well. You?
In 1930s Oklahoma, amid the region's horrific dust storms, a woman is convinced that a sinister presence is threatening her family. It is directed by Carrie Krause and William Joines. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Hold Your Breath, this looks like a decent mystery thriller horror. Now, I did like the premise for the film, and I thought that it felt fairly original. Now, as someone who does his fair share of cleaning but does not dust enough, I actually kind of hope that my girlfriend doesn't see this one, because I have a feeling it will lead to us having to dust a lot more. Now, Sarah Paulson does look like she actually does pretty good in this movie, even though the last project that I personally saw her in, Ratchet, I wasn't really overly impressed with. Even though it was a bit ruined for me because someone set my expectations super high, saying that it was the scariest TV show they had ever seen. And that's one of the reasons why I created this series, because I wanted to give people a chance to watch these titles before others' opinions or bias or negativity came into play. That way you can really watch these movies and just truly judge for yourself. Now, it does look like throughout the trailer that this dust man could provide some creeps and scares, but I'm really sure we're not going to see much gore at all. Overall, Hold Your Breath looks like an interesting, decent movie that's going to get a regular spot on my watch list.
It's good you brought the girls, Margaret. Why is that? I guess you haven't heard about the Drifter. Killed the mama and the kids.
Did he ever catch the Drifter?
It's like he just melted into the dust.
Next, we're going to take a look at a horror thriller called Salem's Lot, and this one's available on HBO Max.
Sundown, you better take care if I find you've been creeping around.
An author returns to his hometown of Jerusalem's Lot in search of inspiration for his next book, only to discover that the townspeople are being attacked by a bloodthirsty vampire. It is directed by Gary Dauberman. So full caveat before we get into the Salem's Lot trailer, I have seen this new Salem's Lot, and I will be doing my full review in my monthly watch series. Now, I know I am criminally behind on this series, but I do have full intent to catch everybody up. Now, personally, I thought that Salem's Lot was a decent big budget horror movie. Now, I'm sure because this movie is a throwback, it's supposed to have that old school kind of horror feel, and they do a great job bringing in like all the old school horror tropes, action, the kind of love interest, just everything that's really going to make you nostalgic about an older school horror movie. Now, it was kind of nice to see these older school vampires in the movie. You know, the ones that are like afraid of crosses and fly across the room and have like all these fantastical powers, instead of the 2024 vampires where it's much more kind of depressed and brooding and just moderately powerful. Now, I did want to say that if you watch the trailer for this movie, the trailer makes the movie look so much creepier than it is, when really the creeps and scares are just alright. I actually thought that the new remake was decent to good, especially if you don't hold too much nostalgia to the point where all you can think of is the original and the new one sucks. So personally, I would give this one a regular spot on your watch list. Next, we're going to take a look at an action-adventure horror called Operation Blood Hunt, and this one's available on Apple TV+. The Reverend accompanies a ragtag group of military rejects to a remote South Pacific island to investigate the disappearance of Marine units said to be at the hands of the Japanese Imperial Army. It is directed by Louis Mandylor. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Operation Blood Hunt, this one looks like kind of a meh werewolf horror movie. Now, there definitely will not be any creeps or scares in this movie, and if we did get 1 or 2 jump scares, I'm sure one of them is going to be a cat jump or a bird hitting a window. Now, I actually don't mind the cast, as I do almost always like Jonathan Rhys Meyers, and I know, although Rampage Jackson isn't exactly a thespian, I feel like he can fit in an action horror. I just honestly thought that it looked really meh, but I guess I would rather a guy in a suit than some CGI tomfoolery. Now, the story didn't really look like anything to write home about, but I'm sure we could all share the sentiment that you don't watch an action-adventure horror for like some sort of riveting story. Operation Blood Hunt looks like one of those movies that I'd really have to be in the mood to watch, much like a comedy horror, so this one is going to end up getting a lower spot on my watch list.
They're hard to kill. You're gonna need that. It's made from silver.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a drama fantasy horror called The Wait, and this one's available on VOD Digital. This film portrays the macabre descent into hell of a man facing the consequences of a regrettable choice. It is directed by F. Javier Gutierrez. Okay, so after watching the trailer for The Wait, this looks like a meh to decent action horror. We get this one scene in the trailer where the character almost starts turning into like a werewolf, but I'm just not 100% sure. It's like his shoulders get big and he gets hairy, so I didn't really want to say that that was part of it. Now, the story did hit me as a pretty traditional kind of revenge, man come unglued type horror, but at least we got some pretty brutal, hard-hitting action in it. Now, they do call this movie a descent into hell, so I'm sure that the main character is going to go through a lot. And right off the bat, I was just like, damn, when you really see the tragedy that leads up to his rage. Now, even though I didn't mind The Wait, nothing really jumped out at me as far as creeps, scares, or gore, so there was nothing really just in this one for me. So it is going to get a lower spot on my watch list.
La sierra cambia a la persona, Eladio. No curte, no endurece. Y a veces es tarde para darse cuenta.
Eladio, ¿qué haces por aquí?
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a straight horror called VHS Beyond, and this one's available on Shudder. Six blood-curdling tapes unleash a horror in a sci-fi inspired hellscape, pushing the boundaries of fear and suspense. It is directed by Jay Cheel, Jordan Downey, Christian Long, Justin Long, Justin Martinez, Virat Pal, and Kate Siegel. Well, it's spooky season and we have this year's VHS entry into the franchise, and it looks awesome. Honestly, usually this franchise throughout the films has some really good build-up with creeps and scares. I find really good kind of jump scares can be produced from found footage because you just get so many quiet pan points, and this film does not look like it disappoints. Now, there was so much going on in the trailer, like just visual mind-blowing, that I didn't really see very many creeps, but I still am not giving up on the fact that there'll be some creeps in the movie. Honestly, when it comes to gore, I really did think that VHS 85, last year's entry, was actually one of the gorier movies of the year, and this one looks even more brutal, so I'm sure we're gonna get great gore. I see close-up gun blasts to the face, I see people bleeding out, I see first person point of view, chainsaw head chopping. It just looks like there's going to be so much. Now, as for characters and story, when it comes to the VHS franchise, these are usually anthology films, which I do actually really enjoy in a found footage, because then we don't have to go through the boring, mundane act of fleshing out the main characters. One of the worst things to me about a found footage, when it's just one single story, is they just take so long and it tends to drag. Honestly, it's become a little bit of a tradition for me and my girl to watch the newest VHS entry on Halloween night while we hand out candy, and this one looks great, so I doubt we're going to be breaking that tradition this year. VHS Beyond looks really good, and it's going to be getting one of the highest spots on my watch list.
Just keep filming.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a comedy horror called The Radleys, and this one's available on VOD Digital. This film follows a seemingly ordinary family with a dark secret. They are vampires. They choose not to drink blood despite their natural cravings, but their truth is revealed one day. It is directed by Euros Lynn. Okay, after watching the trailer for The Radleys, this looks like a decent coming-of-age vampire horror. Now, even though I don't think we're going to get much in terms of creeps and scares, as this is a vampire comedy movie, I do think we're going to get some bloody killings, and I'm not 100% sure if we're going to actually get like some really raw gore, like entrails. Now, honestly, I didn't mind this take on a coming-of-age vampire story, and it looked like some of the plot elements really did seem interesting. It looks like this movie might have some really good cat and mouse elements that they end up having to play with the cops, as the family kind of really pushes further and further and their thirst becomes too big. Now, I even like the fact that I felt like this was a horror comedy, but they did it with more of a dry humor that didn't really come off zany, and personally, that's what I prefer. This one didn't look too bad. It's just the mixture of a comedy and the fact that I didn't see very many scares. It's going to get a little bit of a lower priority on my watch list.
Could someone please tell me what the hell is going on?
You killed a boy at your school.
What have I done? I couldn't stop.
It's not your fault. It's compulsive.
You acted like what you are.
What is this?
It's a family disease.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a horror sci-fi thriller called The Platform 2, and this one's available on Netflix. A thrilling physical journey that allows an approach to the darkness, where it's scary to look. It appeals to the viewer's civil responsibility and forces them to face the limits of their own solidarity. It is directed by Galder Gatsalu Arusha. Okay, after watching the trailer for The Platform 2, this looks like a good entry into this dystopian horror series. Now, I didn't really see much in the way of creeps and scares, but I did see a weird creature at the top of the shaft, and it did look unsettling, so I'm sure we're going to get some tension in this movie. As for the gore, I really do hate chewed up food, and I just hate like messy-faced eaters, so movies like this always tend to gross me out at some point. Plus, it looked like the movie had plenty of gore besides that, and like I said, the creature at the top of the shaft, not only did it look creepy, but it also looked like it beheaded people, so I'm sure we're going to get an ample amount of beheadings. Now, as for the story, I do like the fact that they shifted the story on this one somewhat. Now, when I first heard about this film, I didn't get it, but I knew the Platform 1 was kind of popular, so they were going to eventually make a sequel. And when I heard about it, I was afraid that it was going to be more of the same. But after watching the trailer, it's almost like they took a little bit of a different angle on it, like you put in orders for your food. So that part actually was welcomed. And it did re-pique my interest. The characters and the performances really do seem solid enough. I'm actually interested to see exactly how the story plays and, you know, their eventual rebellion. So The Platform 2 is going to get a regular spot on my watch list.
Una vez al día bajar a una plataforma con comida. Tendremos unos minutos para comer el plato que hemos elegido.
Una comida.
Cualquier cosa.
Lo que quiera.
Ceñirnos a nuestros platos. Es la ley.
Debemos cumplir la ley. Siempre, sin excepciones.
Next, we're going to take a look at a straight horror movie called Little Bites, and this one's available on VOD Digital.
No need to be afraid.
In a desperate attempt to protect her 10-year-old daughter, a young widow allows a nightmarish monster to slowly eat her alive. It is directed by Spider-1. Now, after watching the trailer for Little Bites, I think this looks like a really good creature feature monster horror. Now, I really love the premise for one, and it actually sounds kind of disturbing. Letting some sort of hideous ghoul feast on you one bite at a time, just to ensure the safety of your daughter, sounds absolutely devilish to me. Now, I'm not too sure about the creeps and scares of this film, but it looks like it has decent gore, and I honestly felt pain in every single one of the bites. Plus, the monster really did look hideous and grotesque at points. Now, harboring a monster that you need to find victims for to feed its hunger isn't exactly original, but I do just love the spin that she has to often or at some points offer up herself to satiate the monster. Now, I'm actually excited for Little Bites because it looks painful, gory, and disturbing, and I think we have a good chance to see a character that wrestles with their own morality. Little Bites really did strike me and will get a higher priority on my watch list.
You hear it too, right? It's not just me. Mom, what's wrong with you? It turns out monsters are real. And there's one downstairs.
Next, we're going to take a look at another straight horror movie called Spin the Bottle, and this movie is available on VOD Digital. This film is the story of a group of teenagers in small-town Texas who unleash a deadly force after playing the famous game in an abandoned house where a grisly massacre once took place. It is directed by Gavin Weason. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Spin the Bottle, this looks like a decent Circle of Friends horror. It looks like this movie is going to pack some decent scares, and after seeing the monster scenes, it looks like we might get some light creeps as well. Now, I didn't see much in the way of gore as far as the trailer, but I do find that we usually get a variety of gory kills when it comes to these kind of Circle of Friends horror movies. Now, the characters all seem played well, and I mean, you get Ali Larter and you get Justin Long, who I assume they're going to be killing in some horribly painful fashion. Now, the story isn't exactly original, but I feel like we may see something new in this almost supernatural / I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of mashup. And when I kind of refer to I Know What You Did Last Summer, I don't mean exactly like the plot, I just more mean like it's going to be a decent whodunit. Spin the Bottle looks like a good Circle of Friends horror film that will get a decent spot on my watch list.
Where are we?
Isn't this the house that all those murders happened at?
That chick blew their heads off. They were playing Spin the Bottle. Spin.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a comedy horror called Krazy House, and this one's available on VOD Digital.
Krazy House is taped in front of a live studio audience.
Set in the 1990s, Krazy House follows religious homemakers Bernie and his sitcom family. When Russian workers in Bernie's house turn out to be wanted criminals, Bernie has to man up and save his imprisoned family while slowly going crazy. It is directed by Stefan Haars and Flip Vander Kuhl. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Krazy House, this looks like the type of comedy horror I can really get into. You're not getting creeps and scares in this one, but honestly, you really need to watch the trailer, as even the trailer of this movie was just crazy. This movie really does look like a super gory, fun thrill ride. Now, as for acting and characters, you get Nick Frost from Shaun of the Dead, but you also get Alicia Silverstone, so I'm sure we're going to get good performances and a decent budget. Now, the story for this one does seem original and great. I love the fact that he's almost part of a sitcom family, and so in the trailer, I think they're actually going to have a laugh track over the movie, so it's just really interesting to see this kind of premise. Now, I wish I had some more to say about this one because it actually looks pretty good, but I'm sure it's going to be fun and bloody, even though it contains the type of zany horror I don't usually like, because I just thought the laugh track and the overall trappings of the movie actually made it look kind of funny. This movie looks like a bloody, mayhem-filled, fun ride, and it's gonna get a regular spot on my watch list.
I tried to be a good Christian. Now get out of my house!
Next movie we're gonna take a look at is a horror sci-fi thriller called Things Will Be Different, and this movie is available on VOD Digital. In order to escape police after a robbery, two estranged siblings lay low in a farmhouse that hides them away in a different time. There, they reckon with a mysterious force that pushes their familial bonds to unnatural breaking points. It is directed by Michael Felker. Okay, after watching the trailer for Things Will Be Different, this looks like a decent mind-bendy type thriller horror. Now, it's safe to say I don't think there's going to be much in the way of creeps and scares, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good tension built into this one. Now, we're probably not going to get much in the way of gore, even though you do see a bunch of gun killings, but honestly, the most horrifying kill in the whole trailer is shown quite far off. Now, what I personally think you're interested in and want to watch this movie for is the story. It just looks like it has a lot of twists, turns, betrayal, and paranoia. Now, in some of the setup scenes for the movie, there was some really weird things going on, like at one point he's talking into a recorder, and then it's almost answering him back, and I don't know if that's going to be more of a supernatural or sci-fi spin, but it definitely was interesting. Even from those messages and other situations in the trailer, I'm sure this movie's going to be a serious mindfuck. Now, while I do like movies like this, like kind of the deeper sci-fi, time warpy, kind of Avatar, possessor type horror movies, it's just not something I can really throw on when I'm in the mood to be scared. Things Will Be Different looks like a great kind of Sunday afternoon, watch with my girl thriller vibes, and it's gonna get a regular spot on my watch list.
Where's the key? There's gotta be a key somewhere, right?
There never was a key.
Hello.
Last movie we're going to look at in this spooky season horror extravaganza is a comedy horror called Evil Sublet, and this one's available on VOD Digital.
Hey guys, what just happened?
A couple of friends find their dream apartment in New York City. Who cares if it's haunted, if the rent is cheap? But when murderous ghosts come after them, they must enlist the help of unusual friends to fight the evil. It is directed by Alan Piper. Okay, I've got to be honest, after watching the trailer for Evil Sublet, I'm not exactly overly excited that this is how we're going to be ending a horror-filled day. Now, even though in the trailer it did look zany and funny, I'm just not sure that this movie is going to even attempt to scare us at all. But I did see what could be some very tense moments in the trailer. Now, I also don't think that we're going to get any significant gore, but again, we just didn't really see it in the trailer, and sometimes trailers could be quite short. Now, as for the characters and acting, this one does look a little bit campy, but from what I've seen, I'm sure that that's the intent. Like, a lot of the jokes hit me like kind of they were very scary movie, so I'm actually not sure if this movie is even intended to be serious at all, or if it's just really a parody. Now, even I'm ashamed to admit that I did smile at some of the stupidity of the jokes, and they did kind of hit me, even though they were really fairly on the nose. I like the fact that there's a little bit of a veiled subtext where I feel like they're kind of poking fun at the fact that housing is so harsh and expensive to find that people would even take the murder house. Now, if you're into a very campy film, I think that this one might be for you. And even for me, even though I don't really enjoy campy or zany, after some of my little chuckles in the trailer, I am kind of interested to see how bad and eye-rolly this movie is. So I will have to be in a specific mood, but it will get a regular spot on my watch list.
Fully furnished, 3-bedroom.
Get out.
What's wrong with it?
It's an old building. The lights flicker sometimes, the hot water runs out too fast. Oh, and it's supposedly haunted. The last tenant went crazy, killed his wife and child, chopped up their bodies, buried them in the garden, and blew his brains out.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. There's a garden?
Well, guys, that's going to do it for another episode of New Movies for you guys to watch and stream. I hoped you liked this content, and if you did find a couple of gems for your watch list, please leave me a like and subscribe. Now, if I had to make a couple of picks this week, we had 18 movies, so it's kind of hard to pick, but I am really just going to go with the ones that really stood out most to me. So the first movie I'm going to pick this week is VHS Beyond. Again, the trailer just looks completely crazy. We see insane amount of gore. These kind of found footage movies always have a ton of like jump scares and just creepiness. It looks well produced. I really like the last one. It's become a Halloween tradition, which I fully intend to keep up, and that's going to be my first pick this week. The next pick I have for you guys this week is going to be the American version of Speak No Evil. I just really like the original. I think that they kept a lot of the kind of awkwardness between the couples intact. Some of the cruelty towards the children and everything like that, it really looks good. It looks just as good as the Danish one. I am kind of interested to see the ending. So that's going to be my second pick, but I really want to throw a third pick in there because, again, Speak No Evil just feels like something I have kind of seen. So the other movie that I'm actually really looking forward to might seem kind of weird, but it's the movie Little Bites. I just found that Little Bites looked really disturbing. I really liked the premise. I thought it had good gore. And I'm just really interested to see how this plays out. There was even one part in the trailer where it looks like the little kid that she's trying to protect bites the monster. So I don't even know what's going on there. I'm just really interested to see how that movie plays out. It just looks different and unique, and it's going to be my final solid pick of the week. Now, I know I already gave you guys pretty much 3 picks, but with 18 movies, it's hard not to give a couple of honorable mentions. I'm not really going to go too deep into these, but I really thought The Curse of the Necklace looked really good. Really want to check that one out. I thought Krazy House looked just interesting enough for me to check it out. Again, with its zany style humor, I might turn it off right away, but the gore really makes me think that I'm not going to. And then one more honorable mention amongst, I could have even more honorable mentions, but another honorable mention is going to be The Platform 2. Again, I'm just really interested to see how the second one plays out. Looks like a decent movie, and that's going to be it for my picks this week. Well, guys, if you made it this far into the video, I want to thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. I've got to get out of here as I have got a ton of movies to watch. I hope you guys have been taking care of yourselves and you've been well, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Oh, gosh. What a mess.